Hello and welcome back to the Glossy Week in Review podcast. I'm your host, senior fashion reporter Danny Parisi, and I'm here with my co-host, our editor-in-chief, Jill Manoff. Hello, Jill.
Hello, it's been a bit. How are you?
It's been a little bit. Our last episode was recorded in Miami at the Glossy Summit, which both of us had a horrible time getting home from because the weather was so bad. But wait, was that last week or was that 2 weeks ago?
Oh my God, I know it was last week.
No, that was last week. Yeah,
time is a blur.
That is crazy. Well, I'm happy to be here. We have a lot of fun stuff to talk about today, and it's all luxury related, actually. We're going to first talk about Golden Goose postponing their IPO, which was supposed to happen soon, and now it's on the shelf. We'll talk about Galeries Lafayette seeing a big bounce back, and also I want to tie that into some stuff going on in Paris this summer with the Olympics, which I think will play a role in that. And then finally, we're going to talk about Celine's new Pilates collection, which I think is very funny. But let's start with Golden Goose.
I think it's brilliant. I can't wait for that conversation.
I think it's cool. We'll get into it. I just think the leather and chrome dumbbell is very funny to me. It's not. I don't
That's
disagree
true.
that it's brilliant. We'll get to that in a bit though. Let's start with Golden Goose. So obviously we all know Golden Goose, Italian kind of luxury sneaker brand that's been around, I think, since the early 2000s. They have been on the verge of declaring an IPO for the last couple of months, I feel like. And they had their shares priced out already. It was going to be about $10.50 a share, which is a little bit on the lower end. But it seemed like it was all a go. And then this week, according to Bloomberg, the IPO has been put on the shelf, and who knows for how long. The only reason given was that I think it was political uncertainty in Europe was leading to a drop in luxury stock valuation. Which I think is true. I mean, even LVMH's shares were down like 11% in the last year. Kering was down 12%. There was Burberry issued a profit warning earlier this year. So I think it's to them just not the right time, I guess, to be doing that. And like, I think if they had gone public maybe a year or two ago, it probably could have been a big bonanza and lots of positive press and everything. And then they just decided that it was like probably going to be a little bit of a dud, and they didn't want that kind of vibe for their first, couple of weeks as a publicly traded company. So it's on the shelf. Who knows if it will be back on later this year or maybe next year or what. What's your take on that, Jill?
Yeah, I mean, even more so than like a dud vibe. Like, let's get all the money we can. Let's make this a successful launch into the stock market. I was thinking about it in comparison to like the housing market, and like, for years, a couple of years now, like prices have been sky high, interest rates are at a high, people aren't buying, like my brother's in real estate. So it's like, why would you buy now? It's the worst possible time to be buying a house. So I think that they're probably just waiting it out. And they do say like, it's still coming, we're just not doing it now. Very recently, there's a lot going on in France with anyway, this whole snap election announcement that's really putting everybody in an uproar. So yeah, it's supposed to be a very bad year for IPOs in Europe. I think it's set to be the slowest, is what I read. So I expect they'll revisit it probably 2025. The brand that they were comparing their pricing to for going public was Montclair, and their shares were also down about 3% last week, 6%, down 6% since Golden Goose announced its IPO plans, is what I read. So it's just a shitty time. I don't blame them. It is surprising since they were supposed to, like, tomorrow, Friday, is when they were supposed to go live. It seems kind of sudden, and I don't even know the logistics and how that's possible. But yeah, it's not happening tomorrow.
No, you're right. I think from what I've seen, similar thing with like the whole European market is going to be a lot more difficult to go public in the next year. It kind of feels like if you're a European company and you wanted to go public, you should have done it like a year ago, or you need to wait till next year. It's just like not a good time. And we've also talked about how the first kind of couple of weeks when a brand goes public or a company goes public is pretty crucial. Like, something you got to remember is that the investors are regular people, and they're susceptible to sort of narratives. If a company goes public and it's a kind of a flop, and their stock tanks in the first week, that's like will imprint in people's mind, and you know what I mean. It's like they're susceptible to panics and I don't know, narratives,
Yes.
I guess. So it's not like this impersonal, the market is just deciding. It's like made up of people, and they can be spooked by stuff.
Yes, I agree. There was some hope for the market in Europe. A couple of IPOs at the beginning of the year. We know with somebody corrected me, and now I forget Puig. Anyway, in Spain, they went public. Galderma Group. There are a couple, but yeah. No longer happening. And this was no like small cookies IPO, like the largest in Italy in over a year. So yeah, we'll see. I think we'll be talking about this again in 2025.
It's definitely a kind of a hard time for luxury, like we've talked about. Definitely like seeing some slowdown across the whole market. However, our second topic, we should talk about Galeries Lafayette kind of having the opposite experience, which is that they saw their revenue up to like $3.8 billion last year, I think, which was a high for them, and also a highest since pre-pandemic, and brought them back to profitability, which they were not profitable since the pandemic. So they're like riding high right now. They're planning to invest like $428 million, I think, into renovating their stores and their tech stack and all that kind of stuff. I think they had from what I read, a really good holiday period last year, which like set them up for success this year. I've heard this from retailers all the time, that obviously holiday is so important, not just because it's where a lot of revenue comes from, but also then you're starting the next year kind of like with your bank account full and, ready to invest and spend on all sorts of things. So I just reiterates how important that is for retailers. But yeah, Galeries Lafayette, I think, is kind of having the opposite experience of some of the other luxury companies we're talking about.
Yeah, it's good to see. And they're doing, again, they're not remaining stagnant. They're trying a bunch of things over the last couple of years since 2019. They've given, well, first of all, I would just say they're de-risking the business in terms of reliance on China and Chinese tourists. There was a lot of talk about, for a long time, they had tour buses basically of Chinese tourists coming in and shopping the store, and that's not happening as much. I think that 20% of their business is now Chinese tourists in this community, and now, no. It was 33%. Now it's 20%. 40% of sales are going to locals. So they're focusing more on VIPs, loyalty, some great in-store personalized services. And they talked about a more balanced clientele. And so that has to do with kind of shuffling their brands that they're carrying. They lost some of the brands that were only appealing to Chinese consumers. They gave more space to Chanel and Rolex. Also brought in some new brands, Bottega, Ferragamo, Victoria Beckham, and some contemporary brands. I really like this brand Rouge. They picked that up. And also doing very cool things with very buzzy brands. Like they're the exclusive retailer of Jacquemus and of the Nike and Jacquemus collab that just happened, and the exclusive retailer of Skims and Paris in France. So anyway, I think that they're just doing all the right things and moving forward, and the over-reliance on any community is just not a good thing this day and age, as we've learned.
Yeah. And also, like you said, they're not resting on their laurels. They're trying new things. And I think especially at a period when like maybe luxury is slowing down or Europe is having a harder time, the instinct might be to like, we made a bunch of money last year. Let's just like hang on to it, like just in case. And I think they're kind of doing the opposite of like, let's be bold and invest and spend this money and try to set ourselves up for more success. So I think that's a good idea. Also, speaking of tourism, we should talk about how a big thing that will be affecting the Paris retail market is going to be the Olympics, which you'd think would lead to more sales, having all these people there. They said, Zofia wrote a story in April that I think at that time there were 7 million tickets already sold to the Paris Olympics. So, somewhere around 7 million people will be coming into the city for that. And you'd think like all that foot traffic, more sales. But from what I've seen, some people expect it'll decrease sales, or at the very least disrupt things so much that even if you do make more money, it might not be worth it because of just like how crazy and wild the Olympics are. I know a lot of cities after they host the Olympics or the World Cup, it ends up sort of being a net negative for them, where it's like, we spent so much money doing this and had to deal with all the chaos of all these people that maybe it wasn't worth it. But I don't know. I still feel like if I'm in town for the Olympics, I'm going to like go shopping too while I'm there, if I'm in Paris for sure.
Yes. And the Champs-Élysées apparently has been undergoing some like revamp, some makeover, and that will be completed by the time of the Olympics. And so there's expected to be some kind of, I don't know, hoopla there. So maybe that will help. But I think the CEO of Galeries Lafayette was saying something to the effect of, yeah, our sales, we expect them to go down, but this is an awesome PR opportunity for the city. We expect them to bounce back at the end of the year, September through December, and that to kind of make up for what happened during the Olympics time, which I could see that happening. So we should track that for sure.
No, I saw that same comment about maybe during the Olympics the sales don't go up, but after. It's not like Paris needs help to sort of like be established as like an up and coming city the way sometimes I think a country hosts some big event like that, and they're maybe not a tourist destination, and then they become one because they've invested all this stuff. I think that can be good, but
think about all the influencers there, and
yes.
and people thinking it's cool. It reminds me of like an Emily in Paris moment where people were going to like kind of redo, I don't know, dress up like her and take her photos.
True. Or imagine someone who went to Paris for the Olympics and they come back and they had a great time and they tell you about it, and then that makes you want to go, and you're like, I'll go after the Olympics. I can totally see it having a sort of halo effect, even if in the moment it's extremely disruptive.
Man, the power of social media. I missed the chance to talk about in our Golden Goose discussion. I'm just going to talk about it. I just feel like it's getting backlash on TikTok from it's funny where I think it's going to do the brand well. It's going to work to their advantage. There are some posts like circulating where like dads are yelling at their kids like, the youth these days about like wearing shoes that are meant to look dirty. And then there's a mom like justifying it going, well, we wore ripped up jeans. Anyway, it's getting good. Negative buzz. That's actually good in my eyes.
Yeah. Negative buzz is a great term. That's absolutely something that exists. Let's talk about our last topic, which we alluded to earlier, but the Celine Pilates collection, which they just announced. I had to do some research on this. I was like, is Pilates a company or is it just the concept? It's not a company. It's capitalized because it's named after a guy, but like it's a generic term. There's not like the Pilates Corporation or anything. Anyway, Celine is releasing a Pilates-themed collection, which includes a baseball cap, a mat, dumbbells, and a kettlebell, which I think are they're very luxury looking. The dumbbell has like a leather wrap for like the handle, and then the weight ends are like chrome with the Celine logo like etched into it. It's very luxurious looking. I wanted to ask, if you rolled up to the gym and you saw somebody swinging the Celine kettlebell, like what would you think?
Jealous? No.
Yeah. It is kind of cool. It is cool.
Didn't remember when Hermes opened a gym in Williamsburg like that. It kind of is giving the same vibes where I don't even know. I think it was like look but don't touch. It was like an art exhibit. But I would just say, yeah, I don't know who's actually like using these things. Probably maybe setting it up. Rich people setting it up in their gym for chic decoration. I don't know, but the clothes are interesting. There's some actually functional things, leggings, cycling shorts, sports bras. It feels so timely. Like there are all these stats that Pilates was the number one workout, like from ClassPass of 2023, from ClassPass and all of these other, I don't know, workout focused companies, which no doubt it's just, I so believe, I've talked about it for years and I didn't do it and I missed the boat, but like the power of tapping into a community, which people are so passionate about their workout routines. Like, I talk about my Sculpt Society, which is a form of Pilates, and I was always like, I'm going to start a walking company during the Pilates, the pandemic, because like there isn't a brand that's like really like aligns with this community. People are all about it. Like it's Pilates and it's walking in this day and age when like slim is the body shape of the moment, like slender, skinny, like that's what Pilates does. So it makes good sense. Yeah, I feel like it's a way to tap into culture. Like it's just workout is what people are doing.
Yeah, no, I totally, I mean, we've talked about how there's so many activewear brands launching all the time, or brands launching their active collections, because I think it's such a big part of people's lives. And it's also a big part of their social media too. People love to post about what workout they're doing. So like it totally makes sense. But I think you're right that for me, not that I buy a ton of luxury stuff, but if I did, I probably wouldn't get like luxury like running shoes or something, like something that you're by the nature of it is going to get wear and tear more than like a luxury watch or a luxury suit or something. Like I usually buy my workout clothes, my active stuff from just regular like Nike or Viore or brands like that are like sort of specialized in that, because like they're not going to last forever. Like for running shoes, you're not supposed to wear them forever. You're supposed to retire them after a couple hundred miles, because you could like hurt yourself if you keep wearing them. But if I spent Celine prices on running shoes, I would keep them forever. I would not want to,
Yes.
retire them. So it definitely
That's
feels
a
like
good
I think
point.
there are people who would do it, but it's not the aspirational customer. It's like the people who can drop however much they're selling the kettlebell for, and like you said, just set it up and just have it for, or they actually use it and actually get it all worn and torn, which would, I think, mean you're like even richer, because you like don't even care that you ruined your Celine kettlebell.
No, I'm with you. And probably maybe the leggings and the shorts and the things that are going to get, I don't know if they get faded if they are made so well, but probably the accessories I would imagine would be more like popular sellers, like the yoga mat, the yoga blocks, things that you can take to your class and flex or whatever. I don't know. The pricing hasn't been released. It comes out in October, but will be interesting to see. And this is nothing new for Eddie Slimane. I butcher, but always like came out with a dog collection, came out with there are a lot of board games happening on the Celine site, and like backgammon and like all of these different kind of tchotchkes for your home. It's fun. I feel like he's creating this world that's fun to tap into via a piece here and there. And P.S. he's rumored to be going to Chanel, but we shall see about that.
We'll see.
Watching him. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I was actually going to ask you if you thought, I feel like there was the idea of a luxury brand making some sort of item that is not what they usually make, a paper clip. There was like was it a Chanel paper clip, I think, a couple of years ago, or like a lighter or a pen or something that's like not their typical thing, but they kind of release these limited things. I feel like that's very common. I was going to ask if you thought that was like slowing down. I feel like maybe a couple of years ago I saw tons of those, and maybe I don't see it as much, but maybe that's not true, and that's just my skewed experience.
I feel like I'm seeing it more with like fashion brands launching like furniture collections or home collections, and it's kind of a similar thing. I do miss like the days of going into Marc Jacobs and like, or Mark by Mark, and seeing all the little I don't know, grab and go items at the register, where you can actually get like, I don't know, a branded little necklace, and it's like literally $15. So things that are accessible, and you don't hear about it a lot. At one point, Tibby did, which I was so excited. They kind of set up a little world in their store, which was, again, accessible items, a water bottle. They had like little shoulder pads, which I always talk about because I thought it was so iconic, but like little accessories. And I do think it's smart for the people who want to, again, at a time when everything is the brand and unboxing and just becoming luxury is so like, I don't know. It's put on a pedestal more than ever. I think it's good to have those little items where people can play in the space.
Yeah. I think I've told you this anecdote, Jill, but I have a really nice Gucci pen that I love, and it's got the Gucci logo on it. But if you unscrew it and open it up, it's just a Parker like pen on the inside, basically. Like was manufactured by Parker, which like specializes in pens, and it's just kind of got the Gucci shell over it. Not a bad thing. Like it's a great pen. But I do think like when a brand is like, we're dropping a pen, we're dropping a yoga mat, I'm like, do they have the expertise to like actually create their own yoga mat, or do they just like get some company that makes yoga mats?
Yes.
Not saying this about Celine, but just
you have to
like
wonder.
Something like that requires special manufacturing. Like, is the Celine kettlebell just like the normal kettlebell from the gym?
But reformer, like, oh my God, they have to. I bet it's a collaboration. I do know that the headphones are a collaboration. So yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and the Pilates thing is not billed as a collaboration, but I wonder sort of who they worked with to manufacture it, because like I don't know if they've got an in-house yoga mat guy or something, or if they had to like go
It's his whole job.
figure that out. Yeah, I don't know. But they do certainly have like people in-house who work on like buttons and zippers and the stuff that is kind of in their wheelhouse. And then when they go out of it, I'm like, they have to have worked with somebody. I doubt they had.
Maybe not for yoga mat. I'm like, throw some foam into it between two pieces of leather.
Yeah, true. That's what I'm saying. I don't know exactly how they made it, but I don't know. Some stuff I'm like, you have to bring in someone from outside to help with this, I'm sure.
For sure.
I do think it's cool though. Just because I'm laughing at it doesn't mean I don't think it's cool. I think that's all the time we have this week. Jill, thank you for being here. This was a great conversation.
It was great. Thanks, Danny.
For those of you listening, don't forget to give us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you listen to this, because that helps us out so much. And don't forget to subscribe to the Glossy podcast, because you'll hear interviews with industry insiders every Wednesday and week interview episodes with me every Friday. Jill, who's our next guest on the regular podcast?
You are our guest host. It is Beard.
Oh, it's me?
Yeah, from American Giant, yeah?
Yes. I just actually recorded it earlier this week with Byard Winthrop from American Giant. We talked about manufacturing in the U.S. He has a lot of good advice on that. So if anyone's listening to this, it wants to figure out how to like move their manufacturing to the U.S., he had a lot of good thoughts about how to do that. It was a great conversation. He's very smart and very passionate about that one kind of central like thing about the brand, which is that they're made in the U.S. and all the challenges that come with it. So it was a really good conversation.
He spoke at our very first Glossy event, even before I was hired. I just remember going to it and anyway, seeing him. He was great.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, he was great. Well, and thanks for being here, Jill. That's all the time we have. And for those of you listening, we'll see you next time.